conversation is about to be a fatherhood conversation. All right, with no other than Mr. Cole and Mr. Shon Hart himself. All right, everybody give him a clap for this conversation. Enjoy.
Well, Shon,
yeah,
we are finally here, brother. Right?
Yes,
You have talked a great deal and have struggled, I would even say, but now we are here at the place where we are going to talk about a really important subject matter, something that you have been working really hard on, right?
Yeah,
for
real.
You want to unveil, because I got my notes here, but I want to unveil this amazing book that you've written, brother, and I think that it's really important for us to recognize the power that it takes to write, to start a book, to write a book, and to complete a book. So the fact that we are here right now having that having that conversation, brother, it's important. Broken Boys Become Broken Men by the Shon Hart. So, brother, can you do something for me, man? I got a lot of questions, but one of the first questions I have for you, brother, because this is so important, can you talk to us a little bit about who is the man without the titles, without all the accolades that come with being who you are as the executive director of Involved Dad and all the work that you do as a nonprofit leader in this community? Can you talk to us a little bit about who are you as the man?
Man, actually, my kids probably be the best one to be able to say who I am, but somebody who is compassionate, right? Somebody who's compassionate, love, family foremost, right? Like God is definitely number one, but everything about me, man, is about family. You know what I mean? And that's what I try to live by. You know, it's just that whole family thing, man. So if I was to, you know, put all of that together, man, a family man, I love to make jokes and, you know, love to dance, you know. I'm just laid back, man. When I'm at the crib, you know what I mean, I'm just dad and husband. When I'm in the community, we can do the business, but you know, I mean, at the core, I just like to have fun, man.
And I know that, right, because we have a podcast together. So this intro is really about all the new viewers that we have, man. But brother, I'm really glad and honored to be in this space with you to talk about this book, because I know how hard it's been to create a book. I'm nowhere near this space, right? So, but I really want to dig deep into this. So can you just talk to us a little bit about what inspired you to write this book, and even what inspired you to come up with the title of a book like this? Can you speak to that a little bit?
What inspired me was me arriving on the other side, where I felt like I was broken. And then finally to get on the other side of having freedom, right? Like personally, where I wasn't living from a place of get back and living in a place of trauma and hurt and all of that. And, you know, working with men, you know, I hear all of their stories and, you know, and connect with moms. And I'm just like, yo, this dude is really hurting, right? And everybody don't know the story behind a man. And that was the thing about when I was working in prison. People didn't know the story behind a man for him to get there. And so, and I just came to the conclusion that, yo, men in particular were not born broken. They became broken. And so that's why I titled it, you know, Broken Boys Become Broken Men, right? Because they weren't born broken, but it's what happens in between time that they become broken men.
So let's dig a little deeper, right? Because I know when we got on our podcast, we have a tendency to go deep. So I think it's really important for us to understand who is the man, the boy behind the man, right? So can you talk to us a little bit? In chapter 1, you talk about instructions not included, how boys become men. Can you speak to that? Because I think that's really powerful. But I want you not only to speak from it from a perspective of boys and men, but talk a little bit about you, Shon. Who was the boy that became the man that I'm looking at right now?
Like we was talking off air, one of the things that I talk about in the book is a story that I highlight, is that when we had my son and we wanted to get him a new bed, and a family member was giving us this new bed, right? And when we got that boy, we realized it was from IKEA. And if you know anything
shout
about...
Shout out to IKEA.
Yeah, shout out to IKEA. But, if you know anything about IKEA, the stuff looks absolutely amazing on the outside. And, I still have IKEA product.
Okay.
But the thing about it, bro, the instructions is garbage. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So anyway, when I got this bed, bro, it was used so it didn't have instructions. And so here I was trying to put this bed together.
Okay.
And, thankfully I have a wife who was supportive. She's like, yo, you want my help? And, me, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll put it together.
You did what a lot of guys do.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm straight. So I was putting this thing together and some hours went by and I heard it coming. And before I was completely done, I didn't know where 2 screws was supposed to go.
So the bed has 2 screws missing?
Yes, the bed had 2 screws missing.
How old was your son? You were supposed to be putting in the bed?
See, now,
look.
Yeah. But he was still young, right?
Right, he could handle it.
But yeah, he could handle it.
Yeah.
So, but the thing about it is that the screws, I didn't know where they belong, so I hid them.
Okay.
And so the bed always had like this little rock to it. Wow. Right? But it was strong enough to hold them, but it still had this rock. And I tell that story in the book. It was that was me.
Okay.
Right? That was me, that little boy, is that, my dad was there, but he didn't give me all the tools that I needed. And so many men do the same thing. Like, this manhood, this fatherhood doesn't come with instructions. You just try to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what so many men do. And that's what I was doing as a new father, of trying to put this stuff together, not knowing where to go and how to put it together.
Yeah.
Right? And I was just building it as I went. And thankfully, like he's healthy and strong, and he made it.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the thing of so many men, bro, that they are building the plane as they go. They are building their children as they go, and they don't even know what they're doing, bro.
Yeah. So this poses another thought for me, right? When we talk about instructions, people say things like there's not a book on parenting, right? I hear that all the time. But I often say, no, there's a plethora of books out there. Why this book?
Yeah.
And who are you specifically targeting as it relates to this kind of book?
And that's a great question, right? Because, working with people and doing marketing and all that, you want to be strategic with this group and that group. Yeah. But what's really unique about this, man, it speaks to 3 different demographics. Okay. And it speaks to the father himself, right? The man himself. And it's just not a father because he may become a father one day, but it speaks to the man about, number one, he could find himself in there if he feels broken, right? That he can start to understand and unpack how he arrived at the place where he is of becoming broken, and then taking that journey to become unbroken. Okay. And then for women, it helped them to understand who they're walking alongside of. Right? Like, now I understand, or I have a better understanding of why he do what he do. Okay. Right? It gives him a better understanding. And that young boy is just like, if that's the path he's walking, I don't have to wait till I'm 30, 40 years old to become unbroken. I can deal with this thing now. Yeah. Right? I can not hide those screws. Yeah. I can just say, I don't know where these screws go. Can somebody help me put this bed together properly? Yeah. Right? Instead of trying to do it on their own. Good. And that's the type of instructions I put in there, right? That it's okay to ask for help, bruh.
Man.
Yeah, so that's the premise behind it, right, of taking that journey. And it's not easy, right? Like, I put things in there, like, for them to take responsibility.
So, Shon, as I move through the book, right, because there's a lot of amazing material and information in here, one thing stands out for me that I want you to speak to is this idea of jealousy. It says, unmasking jealousy, the hidden battle.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we do this work with men, we don't often talk about the things that we battle with, that kind of goes masked, right? Yep. So you're unmasking things that most men tend to hide. Yep. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose to unmask this?
You would highlight that one,
it says, I mean, because part of us is struggling with it. So the fact that you were vulnerable enough to say, oh no, let's address this, I think is really key, because I think we all battle with this, but we don't know what to do with the stuff. So we do what you just described.
Yeah.
We hide the screws.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear why you chose this, and why did you even choose to put it, what is this, chapter? What chapter is this?
1 or 2, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, why did you, so talk about a little bit of the unmasking jealousy.
The reason why I chose unmasking jealousy, because that's what I struggled with for years when I was in my brokenness.
Okay.
Whew. Right, that was the thing that people didn't know, right? I was winning on the outside with sports and different, I was winning.
Okay.
But they didn't know that a lot of what was underneath the hood, bro, was jealousy. And so I had to address that personally for me to become who my future wife needed me to be, and my children. Actually, not even my future wife, because actually I started doing that work when I was married.
Okay.
And so I remember the day that I decided, because I was in the car with her, and I told her.
Yeah.
I told her that that was something I was struggling with, because I knew as long as I would keep it hidden,
yeah,
I would never get the help I needed, right? It was just something that I would just walk around with, right? It was a problem. I had a problem and an issue, not even a problem and an issue. I just felt bad when I would see other men, not just other men, other black men winning.
Okay.
When I would see other black men winning, I would feel small. And so I had to address that. And that was that part of the brokenness of me not feeling validated, me not feeling like I was somebody.
Yeah.
But I had to address it, bro. I'm like, yo, if you're gonna be a public success, if you're gonna help other men, you gotta deal with, underneath the hood. You gotta deal with those screws that you hid, right? And that was one of them. I was hiding jealousy. So I had to call it to the carpet and just say, yo, I'm battling with jealousy, bro. Like, yo, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And so I had to deal with it. So I had to fake it at first, right? See somebody winning. I'm like, yo, that's super dope. But still on the inside, it felt uncomfortable. Like the same time when I first told my father, called my father dad. It was uncomfortable because I was used to calling him Nate.
Okay.
And so when I called him dad, it was uncomfortable. My sisters and them, they still don't do it. But I'm like, dad. I'm like, yo, this feels ilky.
Yeah.
So the same way of me celebrating other men winning, it was uncomfortable, bruh. And so I had to address that. Because that was one of my things that was my kryptonite.
Okay. So you opened it up. So you opened up talking a little bit about your father. So I want to read an excerpt and just have you speak to it a little bit, right? It says, the relationship I shared with my father wasn't bathed in the warm light of love, but it was more of an eclipse, a dark shadow cast over my childhood. His love wasn't the warm, comforting kind that, let me start that over. His love wasn't the warm, comforting kind that children crave. It was the cold, distant, and occasionally harsh. My childhood memories were marred by his unkindness, and it felt like an insurmountable task to try and view through God's compassionate lens. Can you speak to a little bit about that? Because that's a pretty powerful excerpt to talk about your father.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so as much as I have a dope relationship with my father today.
Okay.
But what I wanted from him, like, I realized he didn't know how to give it to me.
Okay.
I wanted all of this stuff, but he just didn't know how to do it. And it was a struggle. I just felt rejected. Right? I just felt rejected. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like, I wasn't, because when we walk around our city or drive around, everybody loved my father. Everybody. It's just like, yo, Nate, like, what's up?
Okay.
Right? Like, everybody. But then he wasn't that same person at the crib. He wasn't that same person when we were alone. Right? And so I struggled with that. Like, yo, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Privately, but in public, like, everybody is loving on him. So I struggle. I didn't know what I wanted from him.
Okay.
I know I needed something from him, but it just became like, it was just abnormal. I just didn't know what, bro. Like, what I wanted. I wanted more, but I didn't know what.
Yeah.
From that standpoint, man.
Yeah. So if a boy picks this book up, right, and he doesn't have the emotional language to be able to describe what he's wanting from his father, what can this book help him do?
It would help him identify, like, me too. Me too, right? And so I write it so simple that I tell story in there so they could say, yo, that's me. But I write it in a way for them to take the journey to say, yo, I am going to work on me. I can only control what I can control. Even as this little boy who can't dictate if his father shows up or if his father's gonna tell him that he loves him, right? My father didn't tell me he loved me until I was 18. Okay. Now listen, I knew my father loved me. Yeah. Now I can say I know he loved me. He just didn't know how to do it. Yeah, yeah. But it's not okay, right? So me as a young boy, I don't understand. I'm not processing that. Yeah. I'm just like, yo, this dude, he don't love me. But as I get older, I had a conversation. It's just like, oh, he did. Yeah. Bro just didn't have the language. Yeah. So a lot of men don't have the language. You talk about little boys, but a lot of men don't have the language. Right. They don't know what the heck to say. Right. Right? And so when little boys, man, so when they pick this up and they read it, they will be able to say, man, that's me. And now this guy who's on this cover, he's telling me that he battled with jealousy. He battled with all of these things. And this is what he did to overcome. This is what other guys that was in his program did to overcome it in practical ways, right? Like, you know, if it's as simple as going to a therapist, if it's as simple as crying and just saying, yo, I don't know what to do, right? Because you can only control what you can control, bro. Yeah, no, it's good. This is good, Shon. This leads me to another question as I'm listening to you, because it starts to make me think about identity and being able to see myself. You know, the universal question is, how do I become something I don't see? Well, first I have to see it to believe that it's true. So as a young person, as a father, as a single mother reading this book, there's some things in here that you talk about considered masking and taking off masks. Yep. Can you speak to the chameleon mask and why it's important in terms of identity and taking it off? Yeah, I mean, if we look at mostly all of us, right? You know, a lot of us, we wear masks a lot. Yeah. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Wear masks a lot to conform or to adapt to an environment for whatever reason. And I just chose the chameleon mask, you know, for a man. It's just the one, like, yo, he just adapt to whatever his environment is just to survive, right? Versus one that's that lion mask, where the lion mask, this is the one that's real aggressive, right? You know, just roaring, like, yo, you know, just keeping people away or trying to be super confident. But underneath, like, yo, like he a marshmallow. He's hurting, but he put the mask on to be something that he's not, right? And so that chameleon is like, yo, I don't wanna, you know, cause any trouble, right? So when they was younger, they had trauma. Like whenever they tried to stand up, somebody smacked them down. So right now, like, yo, I'm gonna just stay in the shadows. I don't wanna, you know, make no waves. I'm gonna just be quiet. I'm just gonna adapt. Yes, everything is yes. Right? Everything is okay. Like, oh, I'm good. But suffering and silence, bro, because don't know how to communicate that I'm hurting. Right? But just put the mask on like, oh, yeah, we good. I'm Gucci. So I speak about, you know, about 7 or 8 masks that and there's more, but I just speak to about 7 or 8 masks that I believe that are common with men. You know, especially even that dog mask. Everybody want to talk about the dog mask. That's easy. Oh, he's this, he's promiscuous, he got all these chicks. But where's that coming from? What was the hardest part about this book for you? The hardest part, honestly, is the shortest pieces in there was writing a letter to myself and my father. So I have in there some sections where I'm writing letters. I wrote letters to my children, wrote letters to my mother. She's deceased now. But writing a letter to myself probably was the hardest one. Why? Because, you know, I had to give, I wrote, this was the thing, like, I tell the story in there really quickly. I gave my daughter, who is 15, some advice. You know, a few months ago, my wife wanted her to do one thing. I wanted her to do another thing about how to handle a conflict. And when my daughter went to handle the conflict the way I told her to, it didn't work out well. And not only did it not work out well, when we were alone in the vehicle, she began to become emotional and stated like she did what she did because of my urging. And when we got to the root of it, bro, when I got to the crib, the Lord was like, yo, you wanted your daughter to avenge what you didn't do at 13 years old. So I gave her advice. The 13-year-old Shon gave her advice, because when I was younger, I was gonna get in a fight, and I didn't fight. I hid, and somebody came to my rescue. So for all these years, until I'm 40-something years old, that 13-year-old boy is still saying, yo, you a punk, bro. With a wife and kids. That 13-year-old boy is still in there, still thinking like I'm soft and I'm a punk. So now my daughter in this situation, I'm like, yo, you better not let nobody talk to you this way. You go, and she's totally different than me. And so writing that letter, man, the Lord was like, yo, you need to go back and apologize to the 13-year-old you and let him know he's not a punk. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay. It's okay. And so I had to address that part of it. Not when I was, this was within the last 6 months, bro. Within the last 6 months.
This isn't 10 years back.
No, it wasn't 10 years back. It wasn't 30 years back. This was within the last 6 months that I had to come and have a conversation with the 13-year-old me that was still in there, that was meeting me or going with me into board meetings, that was going with me into business interactions, that was going with me to handling conflicts. That 13-year-old boy would raise his head and say, no, I got this.
How old is your oldest daughter? How old is she?
No, 20 now, man. 20.
20.
Yeah.
Okay. Is she here?
Yes, she is.
She's here, right?
Yeah.
So I saw something when I first walked in, which struck me because I had never seen it in real time. I don't even know if you saw me seeing it.
No, I don't know.
But I walked into this space, right? And I noted that your oldest daughter was wrapped around you. She was just on you, right? And I thought to myself, as a father of sons with no daughters, but as a father of daughters that I've raised through the community, through my service work, I'd never seen that. Can you speak to the power that a father needs to have to be able to create that kind of love that I just saw walking in here when we talk about boys who become broken men?
Yeah.
Because she will one day be in a space where there are boys that are men who are broken and has a father who is healed.
Yeah.
And I saw something I had never seen. So I'm not gonna get emotional, but if I do, it's because that's just what we do. But can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah,
the power
man.
of that relationship? And
Bro, I have some amazing kids, man.
Yeah.
Like, for real, I have some.
Yep. Yeah. Because it's the book, but it's yeah. I see the family on the back, which I don't see often in many books.
Yeah, man, I have an amazing family, bro.
Yeah. Like,
for real, man. You would do that, huh?
I would, yeah. Yeah, because it's yeah, man. Because I get to see your heart. So I know how important.
No, man, you're talking about my oldest man. My oldest man, bro. I remember when we had her, I left the hospital, man. The next day I went to church, man, and I screamed went to the altar and screamed and just like worshiped God like no other, man. I was just elated to have somebody that I wanted to love and give them an opportunity that I didn't have. And I was intentional. My wife and I was extremely intentional about creating an environment that would create amazing humans. And so for her to hug me like that, like, bro, that's normal. For my kids, my son would come up and just hold me. My middle daughter would come up and hold me. She'll punch me. You know, she's the puncher. But like, that's what they do, man. And you know, and hats off to my wife, man, because that's the environment that we created, like, with intentionality. It didn't just happen. I wish I could just say it just happened that way. We are very intentional about creating space for that. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Can't do that, bro.
Yeah. No. Because a part of what we won't get to see, and hopefully, Shon, you will get to hear, is that the men and women and children who get access to this book will be healed through the words and the real story that is behind the book. So, you know, I am honored to sit in this chair with you, but I mean, so many won't have an opportunity to sit next to you and talk about this book, brother, but they will have this book in their homes. And so I think it's really just important for them to see, again, what you talk about. You know, this is the real man behind or in front and beside this book. So, brother, thank you for giving us this book. Thank you for taking the time in your life, and we all know how busy you are, to sit still and create such a manuscript that so many of us in our families and our communities need to be able to do the work that you and I both know is important, and that's the work of fatherhood.
Yeah.
So I am honored. I thank you. Yeah. I'm looking forward to putting myself in these words and growing too. Yeah. Thank you, Shon Hart.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks, bro.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.